girls. They're like, you ever heard of like the suicide girls?
No. What is that?
Okay, they were like alternative models, right? And like they had tattoos. Yeah, they were like the ones that you just like they told you not to mess with, like the red flags.
Oh, okay.
I used to mess with them, like run through them, like like a Chinese communist parade. Okay, and I thought I was like the only one, but then like I found, you'll find out later. You'll find out later. But anyways, welcome everybody. Welcome back to the show.
Self.
You have no idea. But welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm Glenn Lawrence, and
It's Gia MaCool.
and today's episode matters.
Yes, it does. It's not in a motivational way. We're not doing that, and we're not like grind harder way.
No, but in a real uncomfortable, psychological, honest way.
Yeah, because the modern man is not okay.
No, he is more informed than ever.
There's so much information, but not self-aware.
Yeah, he consumes more content, more red pill clips, more podcasts, more framework than any generation before him.
Yeah, I mean, we're living in a time where there's vast amounts of information, and yet men are lonelier. What's up with that?
They're more anxious too.
Yeah, and more avoidant.
And more likely to opt out of dating, marriage, and purpose altogether.
Yeah, so today we're going to be asking the real questions that men want to know.
And if men have more knowledge now,
why are the outcomes getting worse? Pretty much.
Why men are checking out instead of like winning at life?
And why does it feel like masculinity is louder but weaker?
Yeah, and isn't it like this isn't like an armchair conversation by any means?
Because today's guest doesn't react to men; he works with them.
Men dealing with divorce,
trauma,
parental alienation,
identity collapse.
And this one is personal,
Yeah, because he didn't just help men out there.
No, he helped me. Really?
Through EMDR.
Through my divorce.
Mm-hmm. Through the trauma of losing access to your son.
Yeah. And when my mentor, RP Thor, was dying,
you were his caregiver, Glenn.
I was. Paul was always available every time I needed to give him a call.
So this isn't a theory.
No, this is lived experience. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Energy of truth on fire. They're calling out the world's desire. From fake ideals to moral decay. They're lighting up the modern age. No one's safe, not the church, not fame. They're flipping the script, rewriting the game.
Benjamin is the creator of Apex Mindset. Welcome.
Hey, what's up? It's quite the intro, guys.
Man?
I love it. Love it.
How you doing, bro?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Just enjoying a hot cup of Joe over here in the icy state of Michigan.
Do you still do your cold plunges? This time of year.
I do. I got to throw some on camera again. Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my God, you're wild.
Dig a little triangle, a little hole in the ice. Jump right in a couple times a week or whatever. I was doing it every day, but depends.
I remember you telling me that, like I'm gonna go jump. Oh no. Have fun.
Yeah.
So
yeah, in Florida, we don't got to deal with that.
So Paul, like I told everybody that, like, every time somebody comes to me and I'm doing some one-on-one and if their issue seems to be beyond my expertise or my comfortability, I always send people to you. Like, I'm like, I would even reach out to you sometimes to people I think that really need that help immediately. Because I can't thank you enough for helping me with, going through the EMDR, all that stuff that really just kind of really revolutionized like where I was at from that point to where I am now. Even to this day, I still will use some of the stuff that you taught me, during that time. And it still helps me get through a lot of the things. And so you're not just an EMDR practitioner. So how about you help us, like give us your best, description of you?
Yeah. Well, basically I focus on inner game. So performance psychology, that's the difference. It's, it's healthy. People who are not necessarily diagnosable on the DSM. Like I have a psychology background, but I'm not doing therapy to manage someone's diagnosable condition. That puts me into licensing requirements in different states and different places of the world. And I work with people all over the world. So I'm more interested in working with people who are by diagnostic criteria healthy, or at least being treated for something with a local therapist if they need to be, and I'm
Mhm.
helping them perform better. So that's the inner game side of it. And then the other side is relationship dynamics, because a lot of my psychology training and some of my stuff came from my work in the military, where there's a lot of persuasion
Mhm.
related psychology. And as it turns out, all the things that are good for persuading others are also good for communicating between a relationship, companions. And so all of those communication skills, I mean, really, we're all trying to persuade each other in some way. We're just, some of us are just not as good at it as others. And so all the skills and tactics and techniques that I might have used on a mission to get a double agent to tell me things he shouldn't tell me, right? Are the same skills that use in a benevolent way with a totally different goal, are the same skills that could foster a healthy relationship with, in a marriage, in a long-term relationship or something like that. So those are the two things I pretty much focus on to help guys develop those skills. And it's a skill development. So it's not just information or, figuring out different ways of looking at things. It's part of it, but it's really developing practical skills that they can apply to
Mhm.
their life. And I think
It's
that's the difference.
it's like a psychological repair, basically. Like for the men that don't know you,
Yep.
we know that you help repair men's lives after they crumble, basically, after they're in that middle of that suffering. But
That's
it
part of it.
can you
Yeah.
explain to people how you psychologically repair them in a way that's very different than the motivational mindset? Like you hear motivational speakers,
Mhm.
right? How is it very different in the way that you help men?
Yeah. So the biggest difference is it's action focused and results based. So, I mean,
Okay.
a guy can come to me to talk about, let's say, his
You
depression.
can just use me as an example because I've already used me as an example before. So we can talk about me. All
Right,
right.
right. So Glenn had stuff go on, and I'm not gonna, talk about
Yeah.
whatever, but stuff going on with the
Yeah.
marriage, stuff going on with a kid, and that created like psychological difficulty, right? Now in a therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy setting, we could talk about those difficulties over and over again for a year or two, but not see actually any action or results in your life. It's not that therapy is not valuable, it's one tool. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So what I take is an action and results based approach. Okay, so these difficulties are happening, your life fell apart. What is it that we want our life to look like? What do we want
Mhm.
day-to-day life to feel like, look like, our relationships to be like, our income, what do we want that to look like? What are the practical things we want? And then we're going to come up with a plan and gather whatever information we need to execute that plan immediately. So it's all action focused. And my job as a coach versus a therapist is to provide some direction with that plan and then accountability on the action. Now, in between that, in order to take that action, you might need to develop skills. So if a guy's like, well, I've been single forever, some girl broke my heart a year ago, I haven't been out in the dating market, whatever. What do I do? Okay. Well, now there's practical dating skills, pickup skills, and skills in seduction that this guy needs to learn. And because I do both, I'll teach a guy those particular skills. Now, I didn't have to teach you those skills, Glenn. We worked on other inner game stuff. You already
Yeah.
had that stuff, but it depends on what the guy is coming to me for. Like an entrepreneur, for example, I use a client of mine as an example. He runs a tree. He's an arborist. He runs a tree business, right? Very successful guy, very driven and focused guy. I helped him with his inner game to work out and sort out different areas of his life so that he had maximum bandwidth to put towards his business. And he scaled that business. For the few years he worked with me, he probably at least 5x'd his business. I mean, he's very, very successful. I can't tell him how to take care of trees. I'm not an arborist, right? But I can give him the inner game skills that he needs to sort his life out in such a particular way that he's very efficient and effective in getting his needs met in all his area of his life, so that he has the bandwidth to be successful and to do the things that he needs to do. And so the kind of the wheel, if you will, there's a sort of we come up with that plan, you gather the information, then it's action, like it's immediate action. And yeah, so therapy is a tool, but if without action, it's useless, in my opinion. So I kind of agree with you. You know. Oh, she froze.
I can't tell if Gia froze.
She froze.
Gia, did you freeze?
She froze on us.
Okay. All right. She'll probably have to hop back in and hop back out. But let me follow up with it. But like with the action, because actually, Thor wrote his book, A Dominant Masculine Presence, and he wanted like a bunch of guys to create multiple other follow-up books. I wrote one. Mine was on presence.
I was supposed to, and I haven't yet.
No, you still can, because you know what? I actually am. I run it all. I have authority over all of the Dominant Masculine Presence series now.
Oh, cool.
That was something he asked me to take over.
Nice.
But like I wrote a series on problem solving, and I kind of dove into how men and women problem solve differently. And there's men are action based. They're very linear. They like, here's my problem, I want a solution, and I want to execute the solution. Guys don't need validation of how the problem makes them feel. That's why therapy doesn't always necessarily work for men, like what she was talking about, because it's like, well, how does this problem make you feel? Well, bitch, I don't care about how I feel. Give me the solution. If you're not going to talk about solutions, I don't want to talk about my feelings. Right? Like that's like the process. But I also wrote about like how, like, if you have a problem in one area, you have to look at it like an architect. Like, just because you have a problem in this area, that's also connected to other areas that you may be deficient in or struggling in. Sure. So like if you are poor, fat, and you can't maintain a relationship, it's probably because you have like a discipline problem. You can't enforce boundaries. You can't enforce, you can't control your eating habits, and you can't, enforce your spending or control your spending habits. That's not three different problems. That's one problem, but it's affecting in different areas. And so that's kind of how I approached it, like the difference between men and women. But now that Gia has returned, I'm gonna let her jump in.
You're saying that therapy is often not effective, and I agree with that.
I've never thought therapy or counseling works, because it tends to focus on more of like, how do you feel, which doesn't help the situation. Like, we need to know the actionable recommendations to move forward and forget about the past. So like the question I wanted to ask you is, how do you think men confuse emotional suppression with emotional discipline, right? Because those two are different.
Yeah. So the difference is processing the emotions. So it's not just, the ignoring the emotions and sort of just trying to stuff things down and move forward. That can leave these effects that show up later in somebody's life. So I'll give an example. I got a client going through breakup right now. So for free in my community, I have a breakup recovery course that I could charge money for, but I don't. I give it away for free. The reason I do that is because, coming from a military background, guys who've decided to self-delete usually did so surrounding a relationship failure. I'm not saying the relationship failure was the only thing going on, but usually that was like the straw that would break the camel's back, or that was something that was surrounding it. Almost, I would probably say, every funeral I've gone to, and I've been to a lot, and in every case where I know someone who's self-deleted, and whether it's through taking their own self out or through drug use, that's another way of doing it, and overdosing, there's usually a broken relationship there. So this is something that can really destroy guys, and no one wants to talk about it because they don't know how to process through the emotions. And so I have a course I give away for free in my community so that they can learn the practical steps to process through those emotions. And so here's the thing, like, if someone does a breakup recovery the right way, they should be pretty much accepting of the breakup and moved on within about 2 months, 6 weeks to, it doesn't matter how bad the breakup was, even if it's a death or something real serious,
a death would be easier.
Sometimes it is, but if they're accepting and able to move on with their lives and move forward within 2 months, this is according to neuroscience. Okay. So
Mhm.
if somebody follows the protocol and in 6 to 8 weeks they're still struggling, what that tells me is that they have unprocessed trauma. So
Mhm.
now we can go back and process through that trauma. So it's not that some of these therapeutic techniques aren't useful or effective. It's just that they're not action based. You can talk about your relationship with your mom and your dad, or how you got bullied in school forever and get nowhere in therapy, or
Mhm.
you can take action. And then if you run into an obstacle, like, I really should be doing better, but I'm not. I'm having these anxieties, or I'm still struggling, or I'm still thinking about my ex, or I still have this guilt, or all these things. Okay, that tells me now that there's something going on in the trauma area that we need to explore.
Mhm.
And then we can target that and solve that problem very quickly, versus wasting a lot of time in cognitive behavioral therapy with no direction. See, the problem with therapy is there isn't any direction. Now, good
Yep.
therapists will put somebody in a direction and have a problem to solve. Like, I'll give him a plug. Sean Smith, I think I've
Yep. I was
done
gonna
therapy
say
with
Sean
him,
Smith.
but Sean Smith to me seems like an excellent therapist. You know what I mean? And so he wouldn't let somebody who comes into his office struggling with anxiety sit there and just, talk about their problems with no solutions for years. You know what I mean? He would, I imagine, would point this person into a direction of solving the anxiety problem. So you have
Yeah.
to have a problem solution focus for therapy to be useful. Otherwise, you're just sort of having diarrhea at the mouth and emotions and not getting anywhere. And that's the problem with a lot of therapy. And it's a very lazy profession, unfortunately. There's
That's kind of like what we did. Like when I presented you like with what I was dealing with,
Mhm.
you're like, "Hey, there's this thing called EMDR.
Right.
I think it'll be a good shot. I think we need to try it out. Let's give it a shot, and we'll
Yep.
we'll take it step by step." And I remember going through it, like thinking, like, this is retarded. Like I'm just following the stupid dot, like.
It
But
seems some of the
it,
tools seem really dumb, and then you're like, holy crap, that
yeah,
worked. It's so crazy,
and
some of that, dude. I know.
so could you explain that a little bit better? Like how
Yeah.
like that as an action plan, like what does that actually do? Like the whole process? Because whenever I explain it, it sounds retarded, and I think you need to say it because you sound smarter than me.
It does. It seems dumb when you watch it. I thought it was dumb too until I did it myself, and I was like, holy crap, this is really effective. I need to get certified in this. So then I got certified in it. But it was like EMDR, it's a really simple idea that the brain processes trauma through forward ambulation, is a creative word for saying walking or running. Okay. All right. So forward movement causes you to stimulate both hemispheres of the brain. And then it's that stimulation of both hemispheres that we somehow evolved to process distress in this way. So it was discovered by a counselor who recognized when she was going for a walk that her eyes were kind of scanning this horizon, and that she noticed had a noticeable drop in distress from some distressing thing she was thinking about. I think it was a death or something like that, right? And she was like, this is on to something. So she started doing research into that, and that developed into the back and forth eye movement thing. Okay, which we can use the laser light or my finger in the therapy session.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is just that creates the controlled environment so we can stimulate the brain bilaterally, you know what I mean? Both hemispheres, but we can do it in a controlled environment. Whereas if we were walking, I can't control that environment as much, and especially for research to see if it actually works, which EMDR is very well researched and does work.
Yep.
You can't have people walking around because then there's no controls. There's different noises, there's different weather patterns, like who knows, right? So, like in a controlled setting, you could do the back and forth eye movement and have someone have some semblance of privacy as well, because if they're going to bring up distressing thoughts, they might get upset or cry or have emotions, and they might not want to do that in a park walking around with a therapist, right? So like, they do
Mhm.
that in a controlled setting through that back and forth eye movement. And I mean, the hypothesis or maybe theory, the evolutionary theory is that, well, we were nomadic, and we also had to, like, high infant mortality, high death rates. People were getting killed all the time. Savage things are happening back in our savage evolutionary past. And then we walked, to the resources, and we walked to the battle. We walked to hunts. And so this forward movement, we had to evolve to be able to handle all these distressing scenarios, of, well, my baby just died, or my wife slash girlfriend, whatever it was, and the tribe just got murdered by somebody else, and whatever happens, right? Now they got to move on and go into battle, or they got to move on and go to the next oasis for resources. And so the brain learned how to process this distress and this trauma through stimulating the hemisphere with that forward movement. We can recreate that with EMDR, which is basically that back and forth eye movement, and then bringing someone through a visualization exercise with that. So they go through a complex visualization exercise where they're picturing and seeing and feeling the distressing event or thought or problem under the stimulation, and it just draws out all the emotions, lets you feel the emotions, and then it lets you sort of understand them and process them. Because after the back and forth eye movement, I'll run someone through a series of questions to bring their awareness to what is going on with them. And so they bring that awareness to, why do I feel this way? Why am I upset? Why? I mean, some of it is obvious and some of it is not so obvious, And so, like, for example, a guy going through a breakup, highly distressed after 6 weeks. That shouldn't be that way if he's following the protocol, and if he's not, seeing her and having, banging her on the side or texting her all the time. If he's going through the protocol, right, and he's doing it properly, he shouldn't be that distressed. Well, okay, let's put him under EMDR. That's just one tool. Okay, come to find out, he's got abandonment issues from stuff that happened when he was a kid. He was latching onto romantic relationships as a solution to that problem. So now we're diving into the therapeutic problem, but it's like, I'm doing it like a sniper though, right? I'm not just sitting here having him talk to me for years. We're going, oh, here's the problem. And we're like dialing it in, and then we're solving and coming up to a solution to that problem and processing the emotions. That's the important thing. Feeling the emotions, accepting them, understanding where they come from, and then letting them go. That's the thing.
The reframing. That's the free reframing aspect of it.
Yep.
So for those listening that want a really quick way to understand it, EMDR is basically a type of therapy that allows you to use eye movement and tapping to bring up old memories, and then from those old memories, process that information so that you don't see them fearful or traumatic anymore, right? And then from there, Paul helps you create actionable recommendations. So that would help with the emotional suppression, right? So back to the question that I was asking. So we don't want to suppress the emotion. We want to process it. We want to have the actual recommendations from there. But then that's also going to help you in life with emotional discipline, because now when we have a traumatic experience that comes in the future, we don't go crazy. Like you hear the poke the bear, right? Don't poke the bear. Like I talk about this a lot online, and I talk about whenever I say that men create their own peace, right? Because you hear men, just give me peace. A woman needs to give me peace. And I'm like, stop saying that. Women
don't put that type of responsibility on a woman. That's dangerous.
Yeah, they don't bring peace. It is really up to the individual to be able to create that for themselves. So when I say this, they go crazy on me because they're like, no, that's not true. Women bring my peace. And I'm like, you're not understanding the difference between emotional discipline and how to handle.
Well, it's also like, like how the guy or the girl says like, well, he doesn't make me happy anymore. Well, happiness is a feeling. You have control over that. So she doesn't bring you peace. You don't bring her happiness. Just be responsible for your own emotions and your own feelings.
Everyone follow the evolutionary protocol of breaking up every 2 to 5 years, or don't.
What's funny is
skills, right? Like,
the EMDR that you taught me, like, helped me in other areas too afterwards. So like, when I was going through a dispute with a fellow creator, that was like almost like I felt like a zeroing out phase as well, right? But because of what you like, what you have shown me through what our time in counseling, it allowed me to be like, oh, I can handle this. I don't need to go to Paul like, hey Paul, how do I help? Like I think I reached out to you one time, like, yeah, this sucks, like it really wasn't like that big of a deal. Like I said, no, I got it. You reached out to me, you're like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm doing good, I got this, like, thank you. Like, because you give me the tools to be able to do that. So my question is, now that red pill is so mainstream and this information is out there, right? Why aren't men seeing better outcomes with women? Overall.
So that's a great question. And it goes back to what red pill is and isn't. And so people have a real hard time understanding what it is, because when a guy has a problem with, okay, I'm getting a divorce, my wife cheated on me, I didn't expect this to happen, I had all these illusions about her in the dating marketplace, and my own behavior isn't so good either, I need to figure out what to do. And so then they turn to the internet to try to figure that out. And then they have red pill. Well, okay, so red pill is a really broad term, and there's a lot of garbage out there that says they're red pill, whatever, and it's just designed to stimulate anxiety. So there's that first problem, is that you have a lot of red pill type creators that use the term that are just stimulating anxiety. They're not really offering solutions, but they're just offering, they're furthering that feeling of being upset and angry, right? So you have that corner, right? And then that turns into the black pill stuff and the incel stuff. Like, you got all that, right? But then you got the more practical red pill, like stuff that actually is useful. But that is really what's been called a praxeology. So I think that was a Rollo thing, but I'm not sure. But a praxeology. Yeah. So where does that word come from? That's from Austrian economics, and it's the study of human action. Okay, so it's the idea is that humans act purposefully to achieve a chosen ends, whether they know or are aware of their own behavior or not. They're doing what they think works. And then that's what shows up in the sexual marketplace. So like when a girl, for example, is like, you know what, I'm going to join a sorority and go through a 304 phase. And then I'm going to do this next and that next. She's being influenced by her social conditioning, and she's doing what is partly her instinct, which is to mate, right? And seek out higher value mates, and there's different instincts, and they're not all get married and be happy. That would be a good outcome for that girl. But unfortunately, she's following a different set of instincts based on social conditioning, based on what she thinks will work for her. It's not going to work for her probably later on, but that's what she thinks is working, and that's what she's doing. And so the red pill is just observing human behavior and what people are doing in order to solve their mating problem. But it doesn't offer a solution for the guy who is divorcing because his wife cheated on him and he doesn't know what to do. It offers him an explanation. And so this is the trap. Okay. Oh, she's cutting on and out.
Is she freezing again?
Yeah, she's freezing for me. So.
Oh man. Yeah, she froze for me too.
We'll get her to repeat.
She'll be back.
We'll get her to...
No. Yeah, not you. She's gonna get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's good. Like, she has like a good recall.
That's good.
I'll wait for her to pop back in though. But like, so like what I'm thinking is like when I see like the problem with this space ultimately is like, guys tend to like be stuck on this whole like red pill rage phase.
She's back,
right? She's back.
All right,
like they're stuck on this red pill rage phase, and like they don't grow from there. Right. So, but I'm gonna let Gia take the question. Wait a minute, where you go?
She left. Oh no!
Come back, woman. Come back. She'll be back.
Yeah, I know.
But like, it's like I made the phrase like the red pill is always supposed to be a gas station. You go there, you fill up, you get the information that you need, right? But then you're supposed to get back on your journey, get back on your mission, and go conquer the world, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why like me and Thor kind of work so well together, because we didn't dwelling on the issue of like who hurt you or what women are like. We're not focusing on women. If you focus on yourself, because all you could do is control yourself. The only person that you can change and impact is you. Like shaming women, calling women 304s, talking about how degenerate women are does not change them. you can only have control over you. So I always said, like, red pill is supposed to be a gas station, not a destination, and men have made it a destination instead of a gas station, right? But
so
Gia,
she's back.
she is back.
I have no.
So start over. What were you saying?
It's messing up
Yeah.
the performance.
Yeah,
That's what I
The
thought, and I
4K
just
is
switched it.
causing-
Yeah, I switched
Yeah.
it. I figured that might have been what it was for you. But go ahead, please.
So what I was going to say was, it just shows how humans self-sabotage themselves, because instead of more information making it better for us, more information is actually making us like reject each other more, thinking that we're better or superior. That makes sense.
No, right. Well, and the reason is because it's this illusion that information is action. And so guys think, well, I'm going to binge watch all this stuff on YouTube, which, hey, go binge watch my channel and make sure you like and subscribe. I like that part. But the reality is it's not taking action. That's only one step. And so guys really confused. They think learning about something is the same as doing something. And it's only one step in actually doing something. And that's the thing. Like, if a guy learned that he is the beta bucks in the relationship and that's why I got cheated on, that's maybe valuable information, but what's he going to do with it? Is he going to go, divorce, buy a sex doll, hate, just be angry at
AI
chicks
sex doll. Get an
forever,
AI sex doll.
right?
He's
Like,
getting.
well, that's where we're going, right? Is
Yeah.
AI, like, there's going to be my theory here is that feminism is going through another wave, which is called the loneliness epidemic, that both men and women are going to feel like 10x here, and it's already happening, because they're going to different factions are escape. The sex goes down, and men and women getting in healthy relationships go way down, and then everyone escapes to technology for a solution, and then everybody's alone. That's what I think is happening right now. But go ahead.
No, I'm curious to know your opinion on this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand about why men are opting out of dating, or women today more and more, is because I know myself, like when I met my husband, there was a little bit of a fear going into that. Like with any relationship, there's going to be a little bit amount of risk, right? There's going to be a risk. So the more information we know, especially the way women operate now, we don't see them as like this innocent little girl anymore, right? We see them as like, they are capable of doing real harm, right? So do you think that men are just opting out because of the fear of knowing all this information about women and going, you know what, why do I even begin? Like, why start?
Yeah, I think men will use an excuse to not do stuff. That's the biggest, unfortunately, especially guys, generationally today in 2025. I'm older, so I didn't grow up with the internet raising me the way that some of these younger guys have. And so, like, the level of apathy is really hard for me to understand. You know what I mean? Because again, I'm an old ass man, right? I'm like,
you and I would go out there
young and hot, but I'm old and gross. I'm 48 as of 2
yes,
months now.
I opened up the show. I opened up the show with talking about like suicide girls. Why? Because
that's a generational thing. You had no idea what you're talking
that's
about.
A generational thing. This is something we had. Remember we had that conversation? We're like, well, yeah. Like we had that
like
bond
borderline
over like
personality disorder girls on display for guys like you and I who had mental problems early on to really get into and be like, look at those 5 red flags. I think that's great. Let's wife that one up. That was us.
But like we didn't have a problem approaching, because we like that's the thing. Like we would approach these we would address these people in person. Like we didn't have a problem dealing with rejection. We were conditioned for it.
Yeah.
Actually, we were conditioned better to handle rejection.
Right.
Today, in this like failure to launch in this social media world where everything is on camera, these guys don't want to look dumb. They don't want to be the next meme.
Yeah.
So that internet, like, exposure of it could be millions of people will know what you did and how you failed is like a failure to launch, issue.
Yeah.
And so these play safe.
Well, the younger guys are really, and I don't even know, we're pivoting a little bit if I get into this, but I remember when I was a young kid and I wanted porn, I would get the Victoria's Secret catalog and be like, man, this is hot, right? That's 12-year-old me. Okay, 9-year-olds are getting free access to any type of
Yeah.
pornography they want, and nobody's watching them. And that's been going on for probably like a couple generations now, right? So since 2000, what, 6 or 7, around that time
Yeah.
period, you could access free porn on the internet, and to the nth, to whatever degree, right? Like just unhinged. And these young people condition their brains to getting free dopamine and free sexual,
They're getting all the perks without the
with
responsibility.
exactly, or the action or the stress
Mhm.
that you need to go through in order to talk
You
to
get
a real
pacified.
woman. Right. And so
Exactly.
they condition their brains while their brains are still forming and maturing, which is really the scary part. So now they get into their 20s, they got erectile dysfunction because they can't take the
Mhm.
anxiety of talking to a woman to have a real relationship with a real living, breathing person. They're conditioning
Yeah.
for the screen stuff. And then and
I've said that.
yeah, and so that's a
Mhm.
real tragedy here, is that this is why men don't take action. The younger guys, this is why they're very weak. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They're not resilient because they've been trained to easily escape to a screen.
Conditioned. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's 100 times easier to masturbate than it is to have
Yeah.
sex. Like sex takes effort.
Right.
It takes real
I'm
effort.
sorry. I just can't do the
So-
masturbating thing. I got these things called calluses on my hand, and like it just doesn't feel good, bro. Like it's just, you know.
So then this leads me to my next question. Do you think the red pill is good for short term and really hurting guys for the long term?
Mm.
Interesting. I don't think that it's doing I don't think it's doing harm. I think that just guys
Is
are
it
harming.
incomplete?
It is.
Is it just
It is
incomplete?
incomplete, but I think that people just need to understand that this is not
So
a
it's the
solution. But
individual.
you know what? A lot of
Okay.
guys who are on the practical side of the red pill that offer really good advice, have decent channels,
Mhm.
they say that all the time. The problem is they say,
Mhm.
hey, this is a praxeology. Hey, this is not a prescription.
Mhm.
Like they say that all the time. Guys just don't listen.
But
You know what
come
I
on,
mean?
let's
And that's the
can we
problem.
be honest though, Paul? We got to be honest. The same guys that sometimes say this is not a prescription also write 9 prescriptions.
Advice. They're giving solutions.
You know, like
and
so
advice.
it's like okay, it's not prescription, but you're giving us prescriptions at the same time. Which one is it? Like, you know, so I think there's confusion there. I come to the point, well, at least I have come to the conclusion that, you know, when they say it's not a prescription, but also giving a prescription, ultimately the viewer has to acknowledge that this is a prescription. And
Yeah.
they want to have the plausible deniability, like, well, this is not a prescription, so that if anything does happen or doesn't work out, they can say, like,
Mhm.
I didn't give you a prescription. This is a praxeology,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
You know,
and
Yeah, like if we're calling all women hoes, right? If all women is a whore,
Uh-huh.
they are.
then
No, I'm kidding.
naturally the prescription for men is just use them for sex and never get married, right? So like that's how people read it as.
But then
a
shame them
solution,
for their
as an
body count.
ideology.
Don't forget that.
Exactly. Oh my
Don't
God.
forget,
You know
don't
what?
forget that. You know,
I'm so
yeah.
glad you brought
Yeah.
that up. This is the funniest thing. I'm having this space with all these guys, right? And they're like, man, there's no marriageable women. We want, you know, below body count. We want, you know,
Mhm.
marriageable
When she
women.
doesn't have sex
And
with
then
me
at
on
the
the
same
first
time-
date, I'm out. Like, that's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then they're advocating for prostitution to be legalized. Like we should just have legal brothels. Like that would solve the problem. I'm like, so you want marriageable women, but then you also want hoes. Which one is it, guys? Because I can't, you know, you can't have this cognitive dissonance here.
Well, they haven't sorted it out, right? And so this is the problem with passively consuming content versus taking action and finding out what actually works in real life and isn't just a
Mhm.
thing on the internet that people talk about. Because there's
Yeah.
a lot of dumb things on the internet that really don't work too well in real life. And you have to go out and experience life to figure that stuff out. And I will say this, though, like, I can't blame the red pill for this. The reason why is because I give out prescriptions and I
Mhm.
say all the time what to do. And the vast majority of
Mhm.
people who come across my stuff log off because they don't
Yeah.
want to take any action, or they like see there's a lot of guys not listening. You know what I mean?
Is that the
So, like,
is it the Brufalt's law? like the band or like the curve, like
Well,
like out of 100 people that would listen to your content, you know, like 15% will may actually listen to all the way through, and then out of that 15%, maybe like 5% of people actually will apply it in
Yep.
their life, and then
Like
maybe
Pareto
3% would
principle, I think
actually,
what you're thinking about.
yeah, Pareto principle. That's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking of.
And yeah, I mean, kind of, it is a Pareto principle thing. It's getting more to be like 10%, 90% versus 80-20 at this point, and maybe even getting less.
Yeah.
Because if you just offer apathy and avenues for escape, and you present the world like it's this shitty, horrible place, that's what people are going to do. They're going to become depressive and escape. And what I'm advocating is that guys not be pussies. Okay. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah.
Like just
Don't be
fucking
bitches.
don't give up and try and take relentless action regardless. Oh, really? The sexual marketplace sucks. Women suck. Cool. Go date anyway. Figure it out, because they're not all that. When you get out there, you realize, well, you know, there's a big gray scale here, and there's a lot of decent women out there. There's a lot of women who aren't too decent too, but you sort of figure out how to navigate.
And I said,
that, right?
If a guy constantly says good women don't exist, to me, what he's doing is confessing
he doesn't talk to women
of his own market value.
Yes, correct.
He's confessing his own market value. Like, he doesn't have the market value to get women, because women, there's no such thing as good women. I've said that a million times.
Women
No
are just
such thing as
women.
Good women.
Right.
Women are women, and that's not to excuse their behavior. Like, and by any means, I'm not excusing their
No, but
behavior,
you're
but I'm
human
just letting you
beings,
know
right?
that men are men,
Yeah.
women are women. Yeah, we're gonna have faults. We have a tendency to always do the easy, lazy thing. So if you tolerate that, if you put up with it, then you're basically telling her, yeah, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, women are going to treat you the way that you allow them to treat you. And also, like, you know, the idea of is like, who you call a bad woman, she might be a good woman to me, because she may value me differently. She may see higher value in me and see that I'm letting her be access to me in my life is a benefit to her. So she will behave in a certain manner that she can maintain that access. Now, for you, she doesn't see you as that valuable, so she's not going to put that effort in to treat you that way. And so that's why I just say women are just women, and how they view you is how they're going to treat you. How they value you is how they're going to treat you.
And here's another thing I want to ask Paul. So we all know that every single time we've gone through a breakup or something traumatic in our life, we all know that we put up walls, right?
Yeah. So I think when a lot of people say that they don't really know what they mean, they don't know what frame means. It's like, I think that's like a lot of times they just don't know what it means. They think that it means that I have to have a red flags list and a bunch of rules that I adhere to like an autist. And if I don't, you know, if I don't get to know someone and understand the nuances and the humanness of that person, like if I do that, then I'm not following my frame. And that's not at all what frame is. Frame is the way that you see the world and the purpose that you're driving. It's your subjective lens. So the world happens objectively, and then you have this subjective lens that you're seeing that objective world through. And then that's where your values exist. That's where your goals exist as well. Staying on frame is just understanding your own subjective lens, where your values, where your goals are, and then sticking to that relentlessly. And then when you meet women in the dating market, you see if they're a good potential complement to that frame or not. That's what that is. And I think that they just don't know what it is. It's a bunch of guys who are scared, trying to keep themselves safe through rules without learning how to connect with another person. And that's the problem, you know? So they need to learn. This is when I talk about seduction skills. I don't mean just getting a girl to bed. I mean connecting with her on a mental and emotional level, as well as physical when it comes to that, and really learning about this other person and being able to stimulate those emotions, because that's what it really makes the difference in the relationship. You know what I mean?
So Paul, hold that thought. You know, you guys, this is a portion of the time we're going to say, you know what, if you want to catch the rest of this episode, all right, and all the things that we're not allowed to talk about on YouTube, because we're about to get real spicy, because there is a thing called stripper game. And if you want to ever learn about that, you're going to definitely have to go catch the rest of this video in the Patreon, because
Oh boy.
we can't be talking about this on YouTube. So we'll be right back after this brief message.